Module 4, Breaking Down the Barriers, How to Make the System Work for South Asian Communities. Part 4, Women, Health, and the Law. Supporting women in the community. If a woman cannot or does not want to leave the domestic abuser, she may benefit from access to advocacy and outreach services such as telephone helplines, drop-in centers, and survivors' support groups. For victims with mental health issues, display information about support services in multiple languages, provide first language services whenever possible, recognize ways in which South Asian women might communicate distress. They often mask their problems as their children's problems. Ask questions after making sure that it is safe for them to talk and that no one else is overhearing. Validate the women's experiences. Link domestic violence and poor health so they stop blaming themselves. Refer to appropriate services. Provide resources, for example, a phone, interpreter, a computer with internet access, for her to get support. The state and the criminal justice system. Immigrant women dealing with domestic violence may also experience structural barriers. The justice system has been ambiguous in determining what constitutes abuse, and the process remains rigid and bureaucratic. Immigrant South Asian women usually get tied for long periods in legal battles when seeking divorce, custody, or child support. Role of police and law enforcement. Immigrant women often deal with problematic police responses. Race and language can bias a police officer's actions towards the victims. Despite having policies in place, officers often rely on the victims and the offender's characteristics to determine whether to make an arrest or not. If a victim is not communicating her distress or severity of abuse, they might not take appropriate actions. Sometimes it is the very involvement of the police and the law that may keep an immigrant woman in an abusive relationship. Under the law, both the husband and the wife can be arrested if they have had a physical confrontation before the police arrive, even if the wife's actions were in self-defense or to protect the children. Community-based policing might be an answer. Having a diverse police force with officers who speak the language of the victims can help in addressing some of these issues. And the presence of female officers can also help. The role of social workers. Social workers have worked with victims of domestic violence for years in the courts, social services, accident and emergency services, and in refuges. There are 3 key factors that serve both social workers and their clients well. Listen, believe, and validate the victimized client. Share options and resources without judgment. And support the autonomy of the client. They are the ones living their lives and are in the best position to judge their safety concerns. Risk assessment. There are factors which should be considered when dealing with a victim of domestic abuse or violence. It is always advisable to have a list of risk factors and a plan to deal with them. An example of such a list follows next. Has the woman separated from her husband or family or told them she is considering it? Is the woman pregnant or has she recently given birth? Is the woman in immediate danger and in need of intervention? Has the family planned a trip abroad? Is she having problems with accessing her child or other contact issues? Has the violence gotten more frequent or more severe? Is the client particularly isolated from support? What are the barriers to accessing services? For example, fluency in English or access to money. Are there drug, alcohol, or mental health problems? Does the perpetrator stalk her or monitor or control her movements? Is she free to leave the house? Does the violence include sexual abuse? Does the perpetrator abuse children? Is the relationship a secret from her family? Have older siblings been forced into marriages? What threats have been made? For example, threats to kill? Does the perpetrator have access to weapons? Is the patient suicidal or self-harming?